Okay, well, big screw up in my setup here. This is apparently, oops, yeah, some other river. My vision isn't good enough to see that, but if we go into, I don't know where we are, you can see it's the Liao River. And the Yalu is, of course, near near Korea. So I've got to set up units there. I was wondering because the Japanese have a combat advantage on turn one, and I didn't see anywhere they could hit that they would be in combat. The movement point allowance is 10 is the highest. One thing I did, I looked up, somebody made some postings of files of the original, not the original Japanese rules, but differences between the rules. Now, of course, they didn't completely write the rules, and I also can't pencil them in for the same problem of the glossy paper here. So, you know, I could print out some more sheets and have a sheet of addendum to the, or changes and errata essentially to the original rules here that have been changed, as well as to the naval rules. Apparently, the Japanese rules favor the Japanese, not surprisingly. Somebody's got some tape on the corners here, wherever I bought it from. So maybe it was a more balanced game than other people are kind of giving it sound to, or maybe it was unbalanced in favor of the Japanese. Who knows? But also, there's the new naval rules. Now, the land rules are filled with some minor things, some of which make a lot of sense, and you get the feeling that Multi-Man kind of decided, hey, let's just trim some of the extra gloss away from the game. Let's try to simplify the game. So there are things like the siege artillery can't advance after combat, which makes perfect sense. But, you know, there's about a page of these, maybe more than that. The naval rules are significantly different, but I couldn't find anything about the low fuel markers in them either. So I have no idea what the intention here was, but I'm going to try to play this as published, you know, and if it ends up too dull a game, maybe if I play again someday, I'll dig up the Japanese conversion and try to play it by the original rules. I guess that's about it. I've got to set those suckers up. The decision for setup was to put 3 of the units here and 1 over here. This is the only real decision. I mean, I get to play around up there a little bit, but not much. And the reason for this is I could put them all 4 in one space. They're all brigade size. So I say battalion before I get confused about them often. And no, I know the answer. I brain fart regularly. So my feeling is, well, I want to stop this path coming down. That's the main goal. So if I put them all here, that might be the best. But, you know, my standard kind of wargaming and go, stretch out your defense a little bit. You can't make it a point defense because then I'll just get surrounded and blown away very easily. Whereas in this case, I might be able to retreat from here because of the presence of this unit. We'll see if that happens. I don't know if it will, because I think combat is handled somewhat sequentially. If it's handled simultaneously, then the advances wouldn't happen. An advance to this hex might allow me to get behind, is basically the worry that I have, where I won't be able to escape. If it's handled simultaneously, that can't happen, but if it's handled sequentially, that could happen, and I think it is handled sequentially. You declare them all, and then I think you handle each one individually. And it looks, see, it doesn't really nail it down completely, but my assumption is that they're handled sequentially, because that tends to be the case unless a rule book actually specifies that they're nailed down. Now, somewhere I heard that there are 10 Tojo points. Yeah, the Japanese begins with 10 Tojo points. I was reading maybe as high as it can go. Doesn't seem to have any limit, but there is no way to mark. There's no plus 10 side or plus 20 side or anything like that, so you really need 2 markers for that, which aren't present. I could use a low fuel marker. I was reading, these came with my game, the reviews by Mark D at the Board Game Life. He's very happy with the base game and not too thrilled with the naval rules. But when I read over his naval rules, apparently the copy I have is the first one that came out of the rules, of the naval rules, and it's just full of mistakes, as I pointed out, and that they cleaned them up. But scanning over he gave an example of play, really a good review overall in terms of style and format, etc., for a written review. In terms of much better than my videos. In terms of the core idea of it, I think I have the core idea of what they intended to come through with my fussing and griping. I don't have the core idea of the Japanese rules, which, again, I may be more interested in. All right, what do we do? Well, let's just start playing. I think we start with Japanese movement. And nothing's hidden here. So I'm facing 9 strength points there. What kind of odds do I want? This is in a town hex. I find it kind of difficult to see the hexes, what's in the hexes in general, but when there's counters on top of them, the kind of tight fits in this game. There's a lot of companies that do that, but so I'm not going to gripe too much. But what am I looking for here? I'm looking for this. Towns have a CRT shift of 1. Mountains have a shift of 2, but I must be next to the Yellow River, according to the errata. So the best I could do is rough, which is a CRT shift of 1. So I'm pretty much, this is the best locations that I can defend. This is also in a town. Oh no, it's got a stream. Does that do anything for me? Yeah, the river gives me another CRT shift. And the towns and city shifts are in addition to any others. And the river happens if anyone's attacking across the river. So I should be able to force the river shift there. We're using pretty standard stuff here. So let's see. What kind of odds do we want on the standard combat table? Well, 7 to 1 is the first place where we don't take damage. I could live with normal exchanges, but it looks to me like 4 and 5 to 1 is about what I want to get. So 5 9s would be 45. I'm not going to get that. The Japanese don't allow artillery to range fire either in their rule. Well, I'm only allowed 2 divisions per space, and I stop when I hit this zone of control. So how's the 2 to 1 table? I don't like that. Because, oh, I have enough artillery I can get 3 to 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's get some artillery in there. And do we want to attack this at 3 to 1? I'm probably safe taking an exchange anywhere. Alright, we'll put that there. That's not going to really help though. Okay, and now we get our combat, and I need me some dice. These are the dice that come with the game, and they're your standard MMP dice. Gamers had dice like this too. Oh shit. I'm going to need a new camera, it looks like, or else to get this repaired. Anyway, I never liked these. I don't know why. They're perfectly fine, but they remind me of dice that used to come with victory games, and those were often unbalanced. These look fine. I'm going to use these guys. I like my rounded edges. This is such a pretty map. I like to use my pretty dice with it. Okay, so let's take a look. We're doing 2 attacks, all of these against that, and, well, I don't know if there's any reason to risk the cav there. Not really. If we're going to risk the cav, let's throw it in this battle. Because we want to be able to advance with it. That's pretty much the thing. Okay, so here we have 3 to 1. And, oh, shit. Jeez, we have 2 shifts against us. All right, well, let's make sure to do this one first. 3 to 1 with 1 shift against us. That's only the 2 to 1 table. Wow, this is bad. 2 to 1. We got an EXR. EXR, well, we have to look it up here. It's an exchange retreat. All the defending units are disrupted and retreat 2 hexes. This is not a good result for... And now the attacker is disrupted, and no, I couldn't have helped that with anything except by throwing this artillery into play to get a 4 to 1. So they're disrupted, and they get to advance 2 hexes. Now, I can't do much, but I'll put myself here. And now I've got a 3 to 1 attack here. Wow, this does not feel good. And I got 2 shifts against me here. That's horrible. I get an exchange. So we're losing 9 strength points reduced, which is what we'll take here. And that's not pleasant at all. Okay, did any of that generate any victory points? Well, we have to look over here. Only eliminations generate victory points. Great. But this did not work out well for me. I didn't bump them aside, and I obviously attacked at too low an odds, which, you know, I figured, yeah, I can blow through all of that pretty easily. This is the big invasion. Oh, I had a shift in my favor. Crapolas. Right? 1 shift in my favor. So the 3 to 1, I got an EXR. I would have 3 to 1, I got an EXR. That would have still been an EXR. And the 1 to 1 must have been the 5. It would have still been an exchange. All right. Well, we'll let it stick with that. And now we go over to the Russians. And, right? Yeah, we check supply, we recover, la la la. We don't have any replacement points, so we can't. I think we have a Russian replacement base. Or transport phase. Let me see. Indeed, we do have a Russian transport phase, in which case, let's look at our sequence of play. I could really use a sequence of play aid rather than this, but it might be worth photocopying this out, but I'm too lazy to ever do that. The first thing we do is we check Colonel Osaki, see what he does for me. And he gets a die roll. So he goes up 2, which doesn't help me at all. Now the next thing is I look at my Russian points, and this is where I start making big decisions. Russian transport points 10. If I allocate those points to replacements over here, I can rebuild those units. And I've got a number of units which I can't see what they were because it doesn't give me the backside for replacement, so I have to flip them over again. So I got 3, 6, 3, 3, 6. Oh, they're faster when they're not damaged. And a 3, 10. So those guys will cost me 1 point to replace the 3, 10, 1 point for the 3, 6s. I kind of want to replace these units because they're doing something useful here. Now, this isn't as bad for the Japanese as you think, because next turn the Japanese get 16 points of naval transport that they can drop anywhere along here, i.e. they can cut Port Arthur off, which is why I kind of also want to drop all my replacement points into Port Arthur. And this is the tricky question, you know, do I want to make this delaying action more useful, or am I more worried about what the end result in Port Arthur is? I certainly don't want to buy reinforcements at this point, I don't think. So I'm kind of interested in defending Port Arthur as much as possible, but if I just throw 10 replacements in there, does that make sense? I'm getting 16 points of Japanese units in this next turn. That could be 4 big divisions, except there's limits to what I can take for reinforcements. Which I have to page through the rules to try to find what the reinforcement limits are. Again, not clearly expressed. A couple of player aids could have given a lot of information here. That would be a more modern way of giving the game, really, of presenting a game. This feels about on the same level as an old S&T magazine game. With the number of counters, take the ships out of it, and you've got the counters of, like, you know, a mid-70s S&T magazine. Throw the ships in and you're talking, you know, around 1980 or so, towards the end of SPI's reign. But they are pretty. I'll give them that. So where are our reinforcements here? We got to find our Japanese reinforcements now. No reserves. Yeah, we can bring the big units. We just can't bring these 4-8 reserves. Wow, those are fast but small. And these guys. Okay. Shit. Damn camera is probably gonna put a damper on me doing any more games soon. Luckily, I should start working soon, so maybe I can afford to buy a new one. Okay, so I'm looking at maybe 4 of those divisions landing here. That's going to be able... I can throw some reinforcements in there. So 4 divisions puts me at about 36 to 12, say 3 to 1 on the fort table. Does the fort give me anything else? It doesn't directly. Is there a river or anything? Doesn't look like it. Alright, so we'd be looking here. I don't know how likely we are to take the fort hex. We've got to hold Port Arthur. There's no question. Now this guy gains the most from his from a repair point. Oh, there it's steady, maybe. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give 2 replacement points here and 8 in Port Arthur, and then we're going to do some movement. Do we want to give ground? Son of a bitch. Do we want to give ground is the question over here. Keep this all the way out. Because there's very little loss to giving ground, except that the Japanese can cross over here, and then I got a whole lot more to defend. Of course, they could slip up this road anyway if they so desire. I'm told the number of victory points adds up to 70. 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 45, 50, 60, 70. So that's everything on the field. Which means I got to generate points through the Togo points and through killing things. In addition to probably taking most of the battlefield. That's going to be a tough fight. Well, I think I'm okay trying to hold this forward line and not falling back. Although, yeah, I want to keep that extension there. All right, good enough. And then here, I need to move because I'm going to be landed on right away. So I've got to get some more force here, and I got to make sure not to vacate any of these either, which is going to be problematic. I'm going to send this unit. See, there's no chance he has of hitting here unless he gets a naval victory. If he's able to do things effectively navally, he could actually come from this side, which is why I really just can't afford to just give up this fort here. Can I afford to give up the peak? Peak gives 3 combat result shifts. Wow. And you could trace supply through them. I don't know if there's any case where you can't, where that would be a weird issue, because most of them, the road goes right through the peak for some reason. Do I have any desire to attack over here? Probably not. So I think I'm done with my first turn, except I get to do some replacements here. I didn't take any reinforcement. Son of a bitch! Yeah, you can't see a damn thing. This is totally annoying. Alright, so we're in supply. It's infinite supply line traces. So I'm going to spend 2 points. I'm going to improve this unit as well. Those are the 2 replacement points that I put over here. I mean, I just bump the camera and it goes into zoom automatically. And we'll push into turn 2. Yeah, let's take a look at the first segment in the next turn is the naval phase here, and this is kind of weird. So there's this statement that a sortie, the Vladivostok fleet must sortie or not, and then complete its sortie before the Port Arthur fleet sorties. Whatever that's supposed to mean. From my scanning of this, it seems to indicate that even in the second edition, they use the same kind of, or second rewrite, whatever, of the naval rules. They use the same kind of tortured phrasing, and that you're supposed to complete the entire sortie, whatever that means. Now, given that the Japanese sortie comes after the first 2 steps, I really don't know. He talks about it as though a battle has to be conducted off that first sortie. I just don't see how that can happen. So I'm going to try to play it as written and ignore that line, which I know is supposed to be the way you do it, because it's not explained at all in any sensible fashion. So Vladivostok has very few ships. The choice here that the Russians have, first of all, they have to make a decision. What happens if they sortie? See, step 6 is out here if the 2 fleets sortie. So I don't know. If the Russian fleet sorties, what does it do? Where are my Togo points? Here they are. Okay. So if the Russian fleet sorties and the Japanese do not, that costs Togo points. But they're, I don't know, there are 10 right now, so I don't want to do that. However, if I have to withdraw, that generates more Togo points than sortying would. On the other hand, there's effects to sortying, which are listed somewhere. I'm not quite sure where. This is really a terrible way to handle rules. Yeah, something reduces those 8.13 whatever restrictions here on using the transport points. And I got to keep checking my camera to see, hey, did I lose where I am? I don't know where that is. And yeah, this is what you're going to have to, 8.3.1, which is where the Japanese reinforcements can go. I'd rather not let them just sail into Yingkou and places like that. That seems like a really bad idea. So what do I have to sortie to prevent that? Let's look. Okay, if the Russian player declines to sortie either fleet, okay, Port Arthur is the one that I have to sortie. So now, if I don't sortie with the Vladivostok fleet, then the Japanese, if I do sortie with it, the Japanese can sortie with part of their fleet and pretty much guarantee that they're going to knock it out. I don't think there's any pain to not chasing the Russian fleet in the coastal waters if I want to perform that option. So here's the thing. The Russians can, if they sortie with this, they force the Japanese, and they'll do it by putting one of these little question mark counters out. They force the Japanese to do something, and the question marks have another side just spotted. Again, I don't know if the Japanese rules handled this, but these have no rules about spotting or anything like that. If the Russians sortie out here and the Japanese don't respond, which of course they will, the Russians get a bonus. But if the Russians sortie and the Japanese sortie, then we fight. And there's no spotting, nothing like that covered in here that I see. We go to a maneuver chart, and the Japanese are going to win the fight. So that seems pretty damn pointless. Because if I look at Togo points, if I start, unless, well, I could get lucky and get a crossing the T bonus and lose my ships, in the fight, but get the bonus of the crossing the T. Because the cruiser and destroyers don't matter. And I'm not going to be allowed to sortie these ships in the next period. Now, if I don't sortie with all my ships, I get kind of a bonus here, because it means I can sortie next turn. So if the Japanese send out their entire fleet on their sortie, then I've worn them out. I doubt they're going to do that, though. So I think I'm going to send a sortie, and I'm just going to send a destroyer out, because that's sufficient. And if I lose that, it doesn't cost me anything, and maybe I can cross the T of the Japanese. So let's go to the next thing here. Now the Russians declare whether he'll sortie the Port Arthur fleet. Now here it says they complete the sortie before Port Arthur sorties. Well, okay, well then they completed it and we never got to the Japanese, because this is all done in a sequential explanation, right? And I don't see any way around that. So that's my sortie, whatever that means, is that I sailed out there according to these rules. Now, again, there's some claim that that's not how it's meant to be written anymore, but, you know. Wait. This fleet must either sortie. If the Russian player decides to sortie the Vladivostok fleet, he then decides which ships, and he puts the unspotted marker. Yeah, okay, but there's no spotted use. The Russian player then decides if he'll sort the Port Arthur fleet. If he does, he secretly decides which ships will be sorting and places those ships to his side in an unspotted marker. So what happens if I don't sort the Port Arthur fleet? Well, I open up the possibility of an invasion over here. However, if the Japanese come in and fight me, I've got a problem. So I've got to roll a die on this. I'm pretty decided on this, but I'm going to roll a die for how heavy a sortie I'm willing to make. If I just send a destroyer out here, and the Japanese won't know that that's what I did any more than they know that's what I did here, then I've done the sortie, maybe they won't come in and attack me. But maybe they expect to attack. So what I'm going to do is on a 1 through... Oh, this is the only thing with a torpedo on it. Oh, jeez. It's upside down for some reason. Ah, son of a bitch. Damn camera. All right, so, and this is full size. These don't flip to anything. Yeah, some reason they do. I don't know. I don't know why they have a second side. So if I do, maybe that's more rolls that aren't in this game for some reason. If I do sortie with just a small, basically I have to decide, small ship are a lot of ships. I'm going to go on a 1 through 4, just the destroyer. Go for the most limited. No, that's so likely to cause an invasion. All right, 1 through 3, it's small ship only. Okay. So this is what I'm going to sortie here into the coastal waters. Now, not knowing any of that, the Japanese get to sortie, because step 3 is if the Russians didn't sortie with either. The Japanese get to sortie all summer, none of their things not under a port marker. The Japanese does not sortie. Well, I want to sortie. I know the maximum size of this is a couple cruisers and probably a destroyer. So I can outnumber that, and I can try to wear the Vladivostok fleet out. Or I could send most of my fleet, keeping something to try to clear this, out of here with the intention of sailing into there. Here I'm going to go 1 through 4 for light, 5 or 6 go big. Okay, I want to go big. Well, I want to keep enough. I'm going to keep 2 cruisers and 3 destroyers out. And the rest are going here. And I don't have another little question mark marker, so we'll just have to use, what's this? Smoke. Let's use a low fuel marker, because those have no use in the game. Okay. Now, we didn't go to step 5 because the Japanese sortied. If the Japanese sortie any units, he secretly sets those aside. Go to step 6 if the Vladivostok fleet is sorting. I mean, this has to be done in this order. And then 7 if Port Arthur is sorting. So the Vladivostok and the Japanese sortied. Both show their ships. Well, we've got a huge fleet. They don't. Can we get the bonus of crossing the T or of sinking a major ship? Because otherwise, we're going to lose 2 Togo points for having sailed out. So we have first option to withdraw. And they're surely not going to withdraw. And if we do, what's our chance of crossing the T? Well, we don't know. We got these numbers here, which is the range corresponding with how many combat rounds and everything else. So we have no idea without looking at all of these to understand what we need. So what we need is, we're the only ones with broadside, which means 4. That would be what we want. We want a 4 because then we could fire our torpedoes and cross the T perhaps. So how do we generate a 4? Well, FSH, FSH, HP can generate one. These are the same essentially. This is a little different. And I don't know, you know, this is like a really complicated chit selection combat because there's 2 different chits, and that's just to give you more variance, I guess. I don't want to withdraw. Do I want to take FSH, FSH? Well, if I take HS, HS, that would succeed on one of the same numbers as FSH, FSH. So I don't think HS is an option. So then these become options and this becomes an option. Now, we can try to figure this out even more. As long as we're in the first 4, we're okay. These all get us to close range. So that is what I think we're going to choose. So we're going to grab 2 full speed ahead markers and put it on this destroyer. Now, what about for the Japanese? What is their thinking? Their thinking is it doesn't much matter. But they would love to get the extra points for crossing the T. So how do they do that? Well, for them to cross the T, we'd like to keep it at long range. That would be an 8. How do we get 8s? We get an 8 here on HSH. I'm sorry. How do we get 8s? We get an H with HP, HP. And that is the only thing that can generate 8s. HPHS can generate one as well, but that generates in the same case. Let us naively take the best thing that we can generate without putting too much calculation in. So HPHP. And that's going to be our selection. And again, I would analyze these picks more and probably end up starting to just roll a die for them as I get more used to them. Okay, so we have FSH to HPHP, we get a 2, which is going to be short range, 2 combat rounds. Nobody's got broadside advantage. What does broadside advantage mean? Other than crossing the T, I don't know. I think it may give a bonus, but I don't know. There it goes. Oh, shit. You know, I'm not even touching the damn thing. It's all the way crammed over. So, yeah, it gives bonuses to the armament attacks. Great. All right. So now, what number did we get? We got a 2. Short range, 2 combat rounds. So we have a couple of markers for this. Naval round, and I think there's another one, battle round, that we have here. So we'll put this over on 2 to remind us we have 2 of these, and we can put this over on the turn record. I think we only need 1. Okay. So now we go to the actual battle. And no, we're not going to ever do this in this much detail again. Well, maybe for the next big one, but whatever. Not in this much. So nobody had to pass the minefields. The maneuver chips have been picked. We're in the combat. So the Russian puts his ships in a line. And we have no advantages. And we can put these counters back. wherever they came from. Each player basically has a double set of counters. And now the Japanese get to shoot the hell out of this thing. And if they don't kill it, I don't know what we're going to say. All right, let's start firing our ships now. I don't know what range we're at. Short range. Do we have a short range marker? Yes, we do. And there, we'll put that there. Okay. So now, main armaments are 3 on this. And are they all the same? No, of course not. And small armaments are 4s, which means they're more likely to hit on this. And we had no modifiers. Range doesn't cause a modifier. So we roll for a 3. We got a hit. We roll for a 4. We don't. We roll for a 4. We got a hit. We roll for a 3. We got a hit. Alright. How many hits can this do? Oh, look, I can do 4 hits to something. I wonder what that means. Okay. So I have sunk the destroyer. Now, the destroyer, let's look at this times 3. I think that's only small fire. So I can fire 1 torpedo at a 1 through 4, or I can roll 3 dice at a 1. Well, 1 torpedo hit isn't going to take a ship down. So, let's go after the Mikasa, and we'll try our tiny little guns at it. We're at short range, so there's no problem. We got 1 hit, so we damaged it. Okay. Well, 1 round of combat was sufficient to sink this. I should put it in the dead pile rather than somewhere else. And now, did we get any Tojo points? Probably not. Does not look like it. Or Togo points, sorry. So what happens after combat? Damage has no effect. It flips the counter. After combat, all ships are placed back in their respective ports with a port marker placed on them. I can't sail on because I was stopped by that destroyer. I don't know how many port markers I have. Probably not too many. So this is the Japanese fleet in port. And one's damaged. Okay. Well, that took care of that. And that means I can't get around Port Arthur. Did we cause any problems by sortying without being interfered with? I don't think so. Port Arthur sortied, but that's an also. I don't think we ever hit step 6 or step 5. Step 7, we could choose to move to engage the Russian ships. Well, we can't. Our ships are all in port now. First the Russian and then the Japanese may choose to withdraw. The Japanese decide not to enter the coastal waters. Well, I guess I did. Now the Russians could enter the open sea. I don't think my coastal points are reduced by 6 here. Because the Japanese would not be withdrawing from the combat, so I see no point, no ability to react to that. So, and yes, these rules are terrible. Now what? Damned if I know. We go back to the land game, because it's not until the refit stage that we deal with the other things. And over on the land game, we open up this other rule book and try to find the sequence of play and keep checking our camera to make sure that we're not showing you my pores. And we go to reinforcements. And the Japanese have the ability to bring reinforcements into the board as well as replacement points. Wow. This is a 9-8. I've taken 2 9-8s in losses. My replacement points for that would be 4. I am allowed 16 points. I need to figure out what I want to buy. Okay, so I've made my decision. I'm bringing 2 divisions on board here. That should be more than enough to close this off. It only gets me 2-to-1 odds here. Now, I can't buy anything smaller than a division. That's the problem. These guys are... I might be allowed to bring some guns in. I didn't see them. Oh, I could buy these little cav. The 210 calves, I think. Those might be cheaper. Let's see my reinforcements restrictions again. Let's flip through the rules because there's no useful play aids for this game. I can't bring the 10-2s in. And how much do they cost? Would I want to? Wow, they're cheap. I could bring 2 10s in. I don't know what 8 6s are. I don't see them. Those are my artillery here. Yeah, okay. Oh, 3 6s are artillery. Yeah, I think I'm okay with this. I've got 8 points to recover my attack. Basically, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get attacked here, but I'm also pretty sure that's not enough points to launch an attack. I'm only allowed half my movement points, so I could actually 1, 2, yeah, I could actually go as far as that. Let's put a railhead here just to indicate the Russians can't get any further than that now. I don't have a supply line. Okay. Let's not build this. That gives me 4 points back. Let's build a 2-point cav. A 2-point cav to land here. That gives me 2 more. Oh, these are victory points. So I guess I'm up to 10 replacement points. 2 more points for that. And I could come in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. 3, 4. I'll take that hex too, for whatever that matters. So this is a Russian-controlled hex, but this one's not, for whatever that matters. And I don't think I even need this, but okay. Now over here, I'd like to bust my way through this. This gets 1 shift. This gets 2 shifts. So I'm not really too interested in fighting that. He's got 7 strength points. I've got 8 strength points here. Let's see. That makes 5 to 1. It's 2 divisions. That's everything I can get there. Let's make it 7 to 1. There. All right. And I'm going to launch an attack here at 7 to 1, 1 shift against. 2 defender eliminated. I've just killed something. Maybe that has an effect. That is a Russian 3-6, and that's worth a victory point to me. So now I have a victory point. And let's put it in my dead pile. That's never coming back. Beyond that, let's keep going back to the sequence of play. We're in supply from here. We had to capture that port. That was a requirement, and now we can do recovery. There's no zone of control issues with recovery. So I want to rebuild my divisions, my 9/8s. They cost me 2 each. 2, 4. And I've actually built up some replacement points for the turn. Puts me there. And now we should be on the Russian phase. Now, should I have gotten all my transport points? I don't know. I'm not sure whether or not that sorting without a battle, but I sortied with my Japanese should count, or if I was required maybe to send 2 separate sorties with the Japanese or whatever. But by my strict interpretation of the rules, as much as I can, this is what I came up with. So now we're over to the Russian side of the turn. Looks like my battery didn't charge the way it was supposed to. This thing's just falling apart. So I've left this where it, I've moved this to here because as far as I can tell, the only thing that actually has an effect on these are units and zones of control. It doesn't matter that I walked through it. I don't know what those railhead markers are really needed for. They're not really explained in the rules like many other things. So, alright. So I'm looking at Russian reinforcements. I rolled my die. I only got 1 on the Colonel whoever's table. And I gotta find these towns. Liaoyang? Are they the red ones? That would be nice, but I think those are the victory point ones. There's no indication here of anything. So I gotta find the actual town, wherever it is. And unfortunately, like many things, the game does not provide sufficient support to make that easy. So we're going to enjoy that ourselves. Okay, there's Liaoyang. That's red. That might be helpful. Mukden. Tiling or Sanshin. Okay, Tiling, Sanshin. How about Fushin and Yangnu? Are they in there too? No. So sorry. But at least they are fairly easy to find. So this is the furthest ahead I can move a piece. Now I gotta look up rail movement. I can send up to 2 Russian units, not based on size, and it'll cost half my movement. I can do this in addition to bringing units on. Unlike the Japanese who have their landing, the rail movement, the reinforcement movement doesn't cost me anything off my movement allowance. And then after I do that, I could actually attack. So I could actually surround this unit and launch an attack on it. Uh-oh, that sounds bad. So I've got 10 points of reinforcements. I can't send any over here to Port Arthur, but it doesn't need any right now. It's just it's got 8 in play. I would like to replace these, but I would also like to launch an attack. So we look back at flipping through the rules again to see what our, oh, there goes the camera, what I can bring in. I can't bring in 10 6 units, and I can't bring in 3 10 units. I think that's it, but I can't be sure. So that's none of these and none of these. So I have some of these 7-6 divisions that I can bring in. And if I look at them, they cost me 4 transport each. Now, 4 of them would get me to 28, which would be a 3-to-1 here, but I've got this already that I could throw in, so that's 9 strength points there. So that's 1-to-1. So now we start thinking. If I could get 4 of them, can I get 4 of them? Well, I can't move 4 of them. What if I get 2 of them? That gives me 14 and 9 is 23. I can't move these garrisons out. So 23 would only give me a 2-to-1. I could prevent retreats, though, I believe. Okay, time to look up retreat rules, just to make sure. That's right. I can't retreat through a zone of control. And there's a zone here, so if I put a unit here, I've got him surrounded. So that sounds kind of pleasing to try to wipe him out there. So let's buy 2 7-6s. Oh, do we need them? Yeah, we only got little units here. 2 7-6s, which costs us 8 of my transport points. Since I only have 10, I'll make the other 2 transport points into replacement points. And now our rail, let's check rail movement, make sure I understand it correctly. I think I can just rail to a rail space. Half the unit can't enter an enemy zone of control during rail movement, but it can after it completes using its half. Oh, no. Rail hexes do change. Son of a bitch. So, I can bring things in regardless of who controls the rail, but this is my rail situation, right? Let's see. I don't know. Wait, I had this and this, I think. So I'll be able to get to here because this one was broken by this guy, right? He landed 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that is my rail situation. I actually probably don't need to worry about these controls, but I don't know what to do without doing so. Okay. So if I move to here, no, this is where the breach is. If I move to here, then I can go. Right, this guy landed. No, he's only there. So I guess it's this. Okay. Then, no, that's not quite right. That seems to indicate something more. Yeah, I need this, and let's put a low fuel marker here. Let's do it this way. I think that's the best I can do. Okay. But this, because I took this one. Alright, so what I can do is I could move to here, and then I'd have only 3 movement points. These only have 6 movement points. Shit. Which 1, 2, 3 would not be enough. I might be able to break his supply line. Probably wouldn't have bought these units then, but move them down here. Now they get 3 movement points, and I'm almost out of power because my damn camera, the power side doesn't work now, and the little stupid thing. So I'm on a tether now, and I could go 1, 2. That would allow a retreat here. So I don't want to do that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Looks sufficient. My other units is, I don't know. I'm worried about losing ground up here. Oh, these guys should have gotten an advance that they didn't take. Right? I don't remember. Okay. So railway hexes cost a half movement point. Roads cost a full movement point. Let's get that cav moving this way. This guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, heading down this way. I don't know what to do with these guys. I only have 2 points left, which is enough, I think, to fix one of these. It's a 3-6. It only costs 1 point to fix. No, that's not replaceable. Yeah, it only costs. It's got no replacement capability. Oh, that's Japanese 3-6s. My 3-6s have a 1 replacement capability. No transport need because they're all on the map. So I could repair both of these. That sounds good to me. Okay, now I get to make my attack. I'm not going to get to attack this unit. So I'll attack here at 14-2 is going to be 7-1. There's a defense because of no withdrawal for cav or anything like that. Because of the town. I think that's a town and not a city. They're very hard to tell apart. Just dots. Cities are bigger. It's easy to see on the terrain effects chart, but maybe not so easy elsewhere. So this is very easy to see. Oh, these are... No, Teeling's one of these. Yeah, I don't know what the red dot is for. That's not listed over here. So I'm on the 6-1 table. I get a 4, which is a DD, which is Defender Disrupted. Which will just flip it over once. I'll take him there. So he holds his supply line, or his supply source, but there's no line here anymore, which could be problematic for the Japanese. Now, we flip back, and you can see, I got to do this same thing with the old SPI games, right? Where you got to flip to find the sequence of play, because unless my wife had made up a little card for that. But it's an annoyance, and it's something that you don't see in too many modern games these days. Okay. So now we go to our supply phase, and all our units are in supply. We're able to trace up here, which means we go to recovery. I have 2 points to spend, and I upgrade these 2 units. And I probably shouldn't have been able to keep this line as solid as it was. We'll say there was a Japanese command problem there. I think we're done enough, right? Recovery phase. Oh, shit. I forgot to do naval recovery for the Japanese. So let's go back to that. And then we'll also be doing the Russian one. So, we have to do a recovery roll for damaged ships before they can recover. But that happens after recovery. So, each Japanese ship is going to be on a 1 through 4. And we can start checking those. Top one doesn't recover, and we're going to have a doesn't stack here. and we'll just I'll complete that, and then I'll do the same with the Russians and come back. Some of them are under port marker 2, are they not? This should be this destroyer. Okay, trying to. I'm on a damn tether, and my power was going out, and everything's going wrong here. The Russians succeeded in getting theirs back. The Japanese got some of their fleet back. Notably, they did not recover the damaged ship in the damage recovery side. I rolled for that first as though it was port recovery, but that's okay. I would have noticed, hey, that's the damaged ship. It should have just recovered its damage instead of port recovery. And that, I think, puts us to the end of the turn, if I'm not mistaken. Indeed. And we'll go up to turn 3. Put my dice up here to remind me. Take another break, and this video is more than long enough and more than annoying enough.